but I don't want to do it because I have to. I want to do it because I'm like, I genuinely enjoy this and I'm not going to slow down. But if I wanted to slow down, I could, because, you know, in my 20s or 30s, I chose to do things the right way.
From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Dan Rozga here on the show. Dan, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Neil. Appreciate it.
Hey, see, for the audience's sake, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yes, I am a realtor, work for Remax Concepts, also real estate investor a little bit, dabble in that, I suppose. From Indianola originally, so that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And my wife and I now live in Des Moines.
Growing up in Indianola. So graduate high school there, then what do you do?
Yeah, graduate high school. I went to school in the suburbs of Chicago. I was in vocational ministry. That was what I was studying, biblical studies. So I went to school, small private Christian school in suburbs of Chicago. And then I worked at a church in West Des Moines as a high school pastor for about 3 years before I got into real estate.
How did you stumble into real estate?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, my father-in-law is a custom builder with Cornerstone Homes. He's been doing that for 2 decades.
Sure.
And church was great. It was really just I kind of put all my eggs in one basket. I never really considered doing anything different. And I spoke to my parents about potentially going into real estate, to which my dad responded that when people don't know what to do with their life, they either sell real estate or sell insurance, which touche, I suppose that's generally true. As you know, it's kind of a revolving door. But my uncle was a realtor in Breckenridge area of Colorado, and I was always interested in what he did. And I kind of just went for it. So my wife and I got married in August. I quit my job just before our wedding. We came back from our honeymoon, and that was right when I started in real estate. She had quit her job to get her master's degree. So by the time we were on our honeymoon, we were both unemployed and newly married. So just a great idea. But it worked out.
What was the catalyst? What made you decide to make a change?
Yeah, I really like working with my own ideas and sort of not being tethered by anybody else's. There's blessing and curse with that. Lance Hansen, who's one of our brokers at Concepts, always says the beauty of real estate is it's on you. So if you really think you're good, then great, go do it. But if you're bad at it, it's also on you. So I liked the idea of sort of gambling on myself. Admittedly, there was a little bit of an innocence to my shift into real estate, which I think was kind of good. Interestingly, I didn't really overthink it too much. I kind of just was like, all right, I gotta do this thing, and it needs to work. There's something about putting yourself in a situation where it has to work. I'm newly married.
Yeah.
I want to lead us well, and I need to get paid. And so I think that helped me kind of have to come out and work hard.
Well, there's nothing more motivating than knowing you might not eat tomorrow.
Yeah, there's that, right? Yeah, that's true. Definitely.
All right, so you get into real estate and decide to be an agent, sell some homes. What was the first year like for you?
It was great. I started on a team right away, and I did that sort of kind of as a security. I didn't know much about it. I never knew about a team, as a lot of people don't who aren't an agent. And so it was explained to me, you can be on a team, you get the support, you can maybe get some leads, and it can help you get business. So it sounded great. I definitely underestimated the amount of business I would bring in myself just from even being in the area. So I was only on the team for about 4 months. But the year ended up great. I ended my first year, I think 8.8 million in volume. So it was far exceeded what I thought, and it's continued to grow from there. So
yeah, that's amazing. All right. So somewhere along the journey, you decided to buy a property, to invest in yourself, if you will. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I've been to the school of hard knocks on that one, to be honest with you. So there was a duplex in Indianola. Yeah. I know Indianola well. Obviously, I'm there. It was a situation where I had to move rather quickly. And And I've always wanted to acquire rental properties because as a realtor, we don't have retirement like other people do. I mean, there's ways around that, I suppose. But my thought is, when do I want to retire? And if I want to retire earlier than maybe what am I going to have in place that's providing income for me in those years? And so that's where, passive income through real estate came about. So there was a duplex in town, bought it. I've learned a lot about the process. I moved rather quickly. I don't regret it, although my pocketbook regrets it over the first year. There were some unfortunate things that have happened, but that's part of learning it. And as lots of investors say, you learn from those moments in a bad property. I shouldn't call it a bad property because my theory is always, okay, it was a bad year, but you only lose money if you sell it. And I've not chosen to sell it. And so maybe it's going to take I'm set a year back from where I thought I would be with cash flow, but that's okay. I'm just going to hold it and it'll eventually make its money back. So that's our first property. And our second property is an Ankeny townhome. That's been great. It's a newer unit. I've never really had any issues with it. I have great tenants. I'm lucky with that. And all my units that we have great tenants. And that's what I always tell people. They say, is it hard to get a tenant? Getting a tenant's like the easiest thing in the world. It's getting the right tenant. I have.
You're right.
I'll never have issues with vacancy. And it's funny. Investors I know say, I love it when people get scared of vacancy because I know that it's not an issue, and I'm willing to move forward on an offer where someone who's maybe a little greener is a little worried about vacancy. But that Ankeny townhome is a different kind of investment with just a single family, but we like it.
There's not. Oftentimes, there's not much one can learn from winning. It's all those lessons come from the losses, or the setbacks, the challenges.
Right.
Let's dive a little deeper into the duplex. What was challenging? What had you say what you said?
Yeah, well, I think that it moves quickly. I mean, it was listed quickly. There were multiple offers. I had to move rather quickly, and so I didn't do a very thorough inspection of the property. There were some disclosure issues with some dishonesty from the past owner, which I've learned a lot about that process, and I've been able to go through that process rather, I'd say, cleanly. I suppose there wasn't a lawsuit situation, thankfully, but I was able to approach that prior owner and work it out between us two.
Did you end up in mediation for that?
No.
Okay.
No, that was definitely, it was pretty clear cut. I'd spoken to an attorney about, what could I do? He said, it's pretty obvious.
Black and white. Okay.
Pretty black and white. And I, rather than just slapping a paper on his desk and saying, this is what we're going to do, I just called him and I said, here's where I'm coming from.
Right.
This happened, wasn't communicated to me. And here's how I think you should make it right. Just so you know, this is what I'm prepared to do. And that's kind of my personality, is just giving the guy a call and not that it was the funnest call, but for him, but there was certainly an admission of guilt, and everything's, behind us now.
Sure. Okay. So outside of that component, so certainly disclosure issues, it can be costly.
Yeah.
So outside of that, and what I hear you saying is you had to move fast, probably reflecting, you probably wouldn't have paid what you paid.
Yeah, some people ask me that. I guess yes. Again, I try to think. What's interesting, to not backtrack too much, but when people talk to an investor, like, "Hey, is this a good investment? Is this a good property?" It completely depends. Some investors say, if it doesn't cash flow X amount, I don't want it. Some of those investors might be in their 50s. Some investors that are in their 20s are like, if they have the discipline to see the long term, they maybe don't care quite as much about the cash flow. So I certainly paid a premium for it, but I also felt somewhat justified because there were 4 other people that were willing to do basically the same offer as me. So I don't regret it. I learned a lot. I probably would not be so eager to, jump on the property, but I've got it. And here we are, I suppose.
Yeah. I like what you said. If you're in it for the long term, because if you went back in history and been pretty much identified any top of any market, you go back to 07, 08, and you bought at the top of the market, if you will. It didn't take that many years from the top of the market, and things went terrible pretty quick, right? 08, 09, 2010. It didn't take that many years, moving forward for it to exceed what one would have paid in 2008. And if you went back to 2008 from today, it's incredible.
Right.
I would have bought anything at an 08 price.
Yes.
If you look at where we're at today.
In fact, an investor told me, and this is kind of tongue in cheek, he's like, just buy anything. Just buy it. And that was sort of like, but and obviously there's caveats to that, but his thing is like, don't overthink the deal.
Correct.
And again, for my tolerance, and again, every situation's different. Like, we wouldn't have bought this property if what we experienced was going to like completely set us back. And it hasn't. It's not been fun, but it wasn't an investment that's like, oh my gosh, these things we've had to experience are going to make us sell the property. I wouldn't have bought it from that, if that would have happened. And I do know investors that leverage themselves pretty thin, and they don't allow for any margin for something to happen. And so that's where it's just interesting when people analyze deals. It's so contingent upon what someone wants, what someone thinks is a lot of money, what someone needs. It's just, there's not you can't just paint it with a broad brush. So for us, it's still a good investment because we do have a long-term approach to it.
Based on what you learned there, and all of a sudden, let's say you shift over, you got a client, so you have your realtor hat on. What 3 top tips are you giving that client when they're looking at an investment property?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the first one is, are you prepared for unforeseen expenses? And, how much money do you have? Do you have $10,000 that if something happens, you're able to, act on those things? That would be the first thing. Maybe not 10,000, but, just something. Do you have a margin of cash that you're able to use for, to be conservative? The second thing I would say is sort of analyzing the financials. What are they getting for rent? How much can you put down? This is something that again, sort of differentiates me potentially from other investors is we put an aggressive amount down on the property, 40%.
Okay.
And some people said, it's stupid. You could buy another rental property with that. I wanted to be really conservative on this first property to where even with financing a portion of it, we were able to cash flow, $1,200 a month, because when something like this happened, it doesn't take that long to get that money back. So that is also something that, if the numbers don't make sense, my thing is, are you comfortable putting more down? Because if we keep seeing all these houses and the cash flow doesn't work, you can make the cash flow work. You just have to have more cash to put down, which is my philosophy. Some would say, I don't want to do that, and I'll wait a year, and then that property's worth more, and you're like, crap, I guess maybe I should have. So those are the two, those are the main 2 things, I guess, is how much money do you have if things go wrong? How much money are you prepared to put down? Those would be the 2 things. I know you asked for 3, but
well, top 2 nuggets right there. That's fantastic. What are you most excited about in 2025?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I'm excited about, this would be my 5th. Oh gosh, I think it's 5th full year or 4th full year. I kind of forget. I'm excited to finally start seeing a little bit more relationships with some of my past clients. Because in the beginning, right now, I'm really just trying to serve people well and create a long-term relationship, however a client sees fit or whatever is, appropriate. Some people, want to be your buddy, and some people don't, and they still want you to be their realtor, but they don't want to like go get a beer with you or anything, which is totally fine.
Yeah. Some people you don't want to get a beer.
That may be true too. Yeah,
but they're a great client,
right? Yeah, there's just there's a little bit of I guess
you meet them where they're at,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to more, though. Obviously, for me, admittedly, I'm more of a people person. I really like helping clients, and I like it when we both feel like things are going well. So I'm excited to start to get more years under my belt to where I'm starting to see more referrals from clients or their family, or they're looking to move again. To me, that is such a good indicator that you're doing a good job in your business. Like, I used this person once, and I'm going to go out of my way to use them again. So I'm starting to see some of that in the business, and hopefully that continues to happen in 2025.
Hey, Iowa investors. This is Ava Baukamp, Chief of Staff at Legacy Impact Investors. Have you thought about adding real estate to your portfolio but don't have the time or desire to play landlord? At Legacy Impact Investors, we do the heavy lifting. Our team finds the deals, manages the properties, and handles all the day-to-day operations. Our select group of qualified investors co-invest with us, gaining ownership equity without opening a tenant email or responding to a maintenance call. They just share in the income, appreciation, and tax benefits. These opportunities aren't for everyone. They are for qualified, accredited investors only. If you want to learn more, please visit legacyimpactinvestors.com to apply.
How did doing biblical studies, having your role in the church, how did that serve you well, that background? How did it serve you well as a realtor?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's a variety of things. Some of it just plainly, I'm not typically nervous talking in front of people, or There'd be times the church that I was employed at was a rather big church. So, weekly speaking to 100, 150 students, or sometimes giving announcements to, a couple thousand people on a weekend. Not that I'm ever having moments with my clients like that, but, in that group of people, you have a variety of different personalities. And especially as, if I'm teaching to high school students, I'm really having a relationship with their parents as well. So being able to navigate, having a constructive conversation, connecting with a teenager, and then also being able to communicate with their parent, you kind of have to be flexible in the way that you're able to communicate with people. And I think that served me well to where I feel like I get along with a wide variety of clients, those that are sort of soft-spoken, maybe those that are a little hard, they're a little driven, they're a little aggressive. I like those people too in certain settings. So I think it's kind of helped me be able to talk to the client, find a common connection, like those sort of things. So I typically, I'm not nervous to meet someone for the first time or anything like that. If they want to talk about something that's hard, or we have to have a difficult conversation, I'm typically not. Well, I'm just not. I'm not nervous to have those sort of conversations. So, I like that it taught me that. That was huge.
From what you learned there, and maybe being in that world, did that somehow serve you well as it relates to referrals?
Yes, to an extent. Not as much as you would think, not as much as I would have thought. I mean, certainly, and I'm very grateful for those that I was able to serve alongside and that have helped me. In a big church like that, there's also a lot of realtors in that as well. But, certainly I feel like I left on good terms, and that's, people say people want to work with people who they like. Yeah. And if somebody has a good reputation, I feel like as time goes on, that can't hurt you in any way. And even if somebody doesn't use you, if they think well of you, is what I've always told myself. If somebody thinks well of me, not in an ego way or anything like that, but if someone, I think that comes around in certain ways, whether they refer you or someone mentions you and they're like, oh yeah, they're great. They do a great job. I really like them. It's helped with some referrals, and again, hopefully that continues.
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy, or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
When you think about your investing business, what's the goal? When you look forward 10 years from now, when you look into that long-term crystal ball, if you will, where do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm still honestly thinking through that. Honestly, I mean, sometimes admittedly, it's pretty long term. Again, I kind of alluded to the fact that, what can I do to where I see a lot of agents, and to each their own. And there's a point to this, I promise, but there's a lot of people in our industry who I don't think handle their money very well. And I think they're working longer than they probably had to. And some of that is due to, maybe a lifestyle that they want to have, that they can't have long term. It's not sustainable. Some of it is, teach their own. People can do whatever they want.
Getting paid on a 1099, forgetting to save money for taxes. I've heard every story in the industry.
There's that, of course, or just, small things of, anyway, I won't go too much into that. But the point is that I see a lot of agents who they're working at a pace and at an age, and I look in the future, I'm like, I don't want to be doing that. Not that I don't love my job. I should clarify. I don't necessarily not want to do that, but I don't want to do it because I have to.
Yes.
I want to do it because I'm like, I genuinely enjoy this and I'm not going to slow down. But if I wanted to slow down, I could, because, in my 20s or 30s, I chose to do things the right way, or my wife and I, as she's a part of the properties too. So when I look long term, I more look at it as, and people, don't always think about, if I want to retire early, what is going to sustain my lifestyle? How am I going to be creating money that's going to be able to sustain that? And so that's the ultimate goal, is that these properties would be able to provide, income in those years.
Yeah. You ready for the final 3 questions?
Yeah.
If you had one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. My response would probably be, you're really not that important. We talked about this kind of before we were recording, but to each their own. Again, that's the beauty of real estate. And someone told me early on is there's lots of different ways you can skin a cat. If you want to handle your business this way, you can. You're in real estate. You can do whatever you want. In my generation, I see a lot of sort of like this rah, like, let's go. We got to grind. We got to get this done, and I can't stand that. I really try to, and maybe it's because it just conflicts with my personality. To me, it's I feel much more appropriate being like, work hard, do your job, like, don't get a ribbon for just doing your job. You're just doing your job. And I feel like there can be a lot of added things that can potentially come from ego, I suppose. And that certainly, when you're 20, everyone's kind of got an ego, or someone in 20 can maybe be a little too big for their britches. But, I think I underestimated, and I don't mean you're not important in a, that's maybe brash, but I just mean like, hey, like, just do your job, be a good friend, be a good person. At that point I wasn't married, I suppose, but if I was, be a good husband. I would tell myself just to kind of chill out a little bit and try to see the big picture. And yeah, I suppose that's how I would answer it.
2 books that changed your life.
Oh man, you're talking to a guy who is not a reader, but I've started a lot of books. Man, that's a great question.
2 book covers that changed your life.
Yeah, that's hilarious because that's totally true. Again, like I'm sort of different in the sense of I don't read a lot of leadership books. I don't read a lot of real estate books. I listen to podcasts and things like that. Yeah. I would say one book that was, man, it's so funny because I haven't read in a long time. There's a book called Scary Close by Donald Miller. Okay. Has nothing to do with business or real estate. It has a lot to do about yourself. It's pretty deep. It's more about like coming close to who you actually are, and sometimes that's scary. Yeah. But you have to see that, and it does bleed into business. It does change who you are, for better or for worse. Sometimes people are a little bit afraid to really look at themselves closely because they might not like what they see, in a sense of, some adjustments could be made to potentially be a better person. So that's that. I haven't read that in a long time. Scary Close. That was a good one. Honestly, I've read a lot of like ministry related books, I suppose too. So, there was a book called The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, and it's a book about prayer. And it's essentially about, dreaming big and praying prayers that might sound like are impossible. And obviously I'm a faith-based person, so that means a lot to me. But seeing the big picture and, praying big things that can feel scary and trusting in faith, I guess, that they can happen. So not your typical like Grant Cardone or I don't typically read those things.
Yeah, that's great. If you were cast away on an island for 1 year, you could only get 3 pieces of data about your business each and every month. What 3 things must you know to know how your business is running?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. Well, 3 pieces. I would need my database, which I use Follow Up Boss. So my database is what tracks, incoming clients, old clients, responses to things that I'm sending out, like the communication, which I have to work hard at. I'm not a naturally organized person, and I could do a lot better in organization, but that helps my brain stay a little more sane, I suppose. Definitely that. I would need my cell phone, obviously. Just, keeping up with clients, responding to clients, those sort of things. And again, I alluded to this earlier, but it's fun to, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and I'll meet with clients who are, if they have an allegiance to a team, and we text each other sometimes on Sundays, and if our teams are playing or something like that. And so my cell phone, because it's not just always business related, I try to do a good job of, if I'm reaching out to somebody, it's hard to do, but trying to make it feel natural and not forced. And it has to be genuine. Like people can sniff out, maybe you say one thing that's not about real estate in one text, but your next text is like, well, anyway, I just wanted to see if you were looking to buy a house in 3 months. Right. And it's kind of like, well, you probably really just wanted to text that. And so I try to do this is a tangent, but I try to do a good job of when I'm communicating, sometimes having, conversations, and the conversation ends and we never say anything about real estate or anything about moving or anything about it. I just genuinely, and hopefully that communicates to them, like, I actually do care about what I'm talking to you about. So my cell phone, Let's see. My third thing would probably be like a coffee maker or like an energy drink or something. I'm not a good sleeper. We have an 8.5-month-old at home, which is
that's wonderful. Yes, challenging.
And that's, I will say again, like the beauty of real estate is it has allowed me to be able to be present in ways, still very busy, of course, but it's a different kind of busy where I'm in a little bit more control of, my daughter's having a nap. Can we see the house an hour later than you want? And most of the time clients say, yeah, that works. I selfishly enjoy that freedom as opposed to being in a position, where a lot of people are where, you're not able to dip out of the house to do those sort of things.
Right.
But certainly caffeine can fuel my business in many ways. So those would be the three things. Nothing too crazy, but I need all three of those.
Dan, I've asked lots of questions. What's one question I did not ask that I should have asked?
Good question. The question I ask myself often too is, what are the things that young realtors, because I'm a young agent, should be doing in their business?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'd be curious your response on it too, because I know you've been in the industry a while, but
I've got an answer and it's only 4 things. But I'm going to let you go first.
Yes. I mean, obviously there's a variety of things. But one thing that's been huge to me is finding agents that you want to be like in a lot of different ways, not just successful agents, because, again, like there's a lot of agents in our market. There are certain agents that they do a great job, but respectfully, I don't want to handle my business like that.
Yep.
I don't want to arrive, even at the success. I don't want to arrive, even if they're more successful, I don't want to arrive at success in that way. I'd rather be less successful. And some of that is due to, I'm not in this industry I'm in the industry to do a good job and just help people. And of course I want to be successful, but the bottom line of volume or homes sold every year is not, I'm a human. Of course I want it to be good every year, but that's not the most important thing to me. But finding those agents that consistently do a good job. And I would recommend agents that don't go out of their way to tell you what to do. A little soapbox that I'll go on here is, being a younger agent, it's not always well received when a veteran agent kind of comes into a younger agent's business and starts just telling them what to do from kind of a level of superiority, I suppose. Not that it's not been earned, but I guess personally, I tend to respond better to agents that are very successful, but they don't have to talk about it all the time. Sure. Those are the people where I'm like asking them questions, like I'm trying to pull it out of them. Like, no, like, how are you doing this? Because I want to be like that. But I do that regularly with a handful of agents at our brokerage and even other brokerages, where I just ask questions of how they've arrived at their success. And you have to go into those conversations as a younger agent with a level of humility, understanding you're passionate. Yes, you want to do well. Yes, maybe you even done pretty well in the beginning, but you've got 20 years or plus, where you got to survive in this thing. So coming to those conversations humbly with veteran agents, I found that some people have even veteran agents that I've talked to, I think they enjoy it. I think they like it when younger people come and they just say, can you help me with this? I don't know what to do. They seem to really enjoy that, but it's helped my business tremendously.
Yeah. You ready for the 4?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
This is in my belief. I learned this early on, and it attributed my success as an agent. I believe there's only 4 things one should be doing. Now, what you just said, I agree, and I take it one step further, is once you learn and soak up that wisdom from an elder agent, from a successful agent, it is showing homes, it's writing contracts for buyers, it's running listing appointments, and it's writing listing contracts.
Yes.
It boils down to those. There's plenty of things that lead into that, but spend 80% of your time there, you'll be a millionaire in no time.
Yeah. You're doing something right if you're doing those things.
Correct.
Certainly.
Yeah. This has been great. I've enjoyed this conversation a lot. For people who want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, I have my Instagram is just Dan Rozga, my name. I used to have a business account. I kind of stayed away from that just because I couldn't handle posting on multiple things.
Sure.
So my Instagram is Dan Rozga. My Facebook is Dan Rozga. I do have a Facebook business account, I suppose. But I try to keep it light and try to keep it to where I'm not posting about real estate all the time.
Sure.
But I certainly like to sprinkle what I'm doing on those sites.
Fantastic. Links below in the show notes, everybody. Dan, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Neil. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.